Hey guys, my name is Kevin. I'm the creator and founder of Elevation and Deal as a result of that. Um, in this video, I'm going to be reading the season one waiver, and I'm going to be doing this for a couple different reasons. The first reason is that this is a 12-page waiver, 13 actually, excuse me, well, 13 with the signing, but there, 13 entire pages, 12 of which I'll be reading from. And I know if I wanted to join an esports league, even, it doesn't matter the size of it. I probably wouldn't want to read 12 pages of details and stuff. So the hope for this is that I can read this for y'all, provide y'all with, with that service, and y'all can listen to this YouTube video while you're playing Rocket League or you're doing all kinds of different things, chores around the house, whatever it may be. That's the main reason. The kind of sub reason, the second reason to that is in this video I'll probably also go over some things as well. So I don't want to hear people saying, well, this waiver is too long and I don't want to read it all. This is an alternative so that you can gain information and knowledge of how the league works, how it's formatted, some of the events within it, and things of that nature. So I think that kind of covers why I'm doing this and why this is available for everybody. Feel free to send this to people. I'll probably try to make some timestamps in the actual YouTube video. Um, and you can kind of see where we're at based on the where I read. It's pretty detailed to, like, for instance, how do I sign up? It's gonna be the first thing I talk about. Information regarding it's gonna be the next thing. You can kind of see what's going on my screen. I'll be doing another video that will have me signing up. Like, if I was new to this and I wanted to sign up to this, I will have another video on my YouTube channel after this one showing this whole process right here, how to sign up, and also using the Discord server, and showing people how to use the channels. And I know for a lot of y'all use Discord maybe a lot. Some people may have never used it before. So I want to kind of have a little quick tutorial video on how to access and use the Discord, as well as how to sign up for Deal. So, without further ado, let me kind of get into this. Let me kind of talk about what is Deal. Um, so, for y'all who just might have just clicked on this video because it got recommended, Deal is a mid-ladder Rocket League tournament. It is, I say mid-ladder, it is from ranges from Gold 1 to Diamond 3 to 4. So, if you're within those ranks in Rocket League in a 2v2 style format, um, this would be the place for you if you're into that kind of thing. I'll kind of get into what makes this unique and different than other leagues. It's kind of similar to RLCS. I took bits and pieces from other sports and combined it, like football and basketball, to make this a very fun and competitive experience. And that is what I'm going to be trying to provide for everyone who joins. So let's go ahead and get into reading this thing. Enough about me talking. Let's get into it. So, how do I sign up for Deal? Number one, join the official Deal Season 1 Discord server right there. I have the link posted in the description. This link will be there as well as the download to this waiver, as well as the download, or not download, but as well as hopefully the link to the other video of how to access the Discord, how to use it, how to sign up. And then the final link will be that to the Google form, which you have to fill out to sign up as well. But back to our regular scheduled reading, I'll reread it again since I kind of went off topic there. But number one, how do I sign up for Deal? Step one, to join the official Deal Season 1 Discord server right there. There's the link. Number two, you're going to read this and sign this waiver, or alternatively, which we were probably doing, listening to it and then sign the waiver, because I'll be reading every single word of this waiver. So you shouldn't have anything like, oh, well, you didn't read that. Nope, I will read this every single word on this sheet of paper. After you've signed this waiver and read it, or listen to me read it, download your signed copy of this waiver and post it in the hashtag upload PDF Discord channel. If you're not sure how to do that, like I said, the other video will give you a step-by-step tutorial on how to do that. Step four, fill out the official Deal Google form right there. That's the forever link for that Google form, just like this is the forever link for the Discord server. So once you've done all these three steps, you can go ahead and hop over to the Google form, fill that out. The first half is going to be like your sign up stuff, like your name, your date of birth, all that simple stuff, just so we can identify you, your Discord name, your Epic account, blah, 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 blah. The second half of that Google form will be what you think is best for the league. So this is kind of a general waiver. I don't know exactly how many regular season games we're going to have. I don't exactly know how long the season's going to be. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the average out of what everyone votes for. So if everyone wants to have 4 games a week, we will have 4 games a week if that is the average. But that's a lot of games a week. A lot of people have work, a lot of people have school, a lot of people have things going on of that nature. So make sure you vote for what you want, not for what everyone else wants, because I will be taking the average of everyone on that second half of the Google form. That's where you'll find that opinion section, which is optional. You don't, if you don't really have a say or you don't really care, you don't have to fill that out. It just helps to kind of give me an idea of what everyone, how often you guys want to play in the league, how often, how long you want the season to be, things of that nature, which I don't know off the top of my head. So that's step 4. You fill out the official Deal Google form. Step 5, you're going to wait for me to reach out. If I haven't already introduced myself, I will. But I will talk to everybody who signs up, and if they do this process correctly, I will reach out. And that is to to figure out which position you want to be and all that kind of thing, all those kind of things, and help kind of set you up and get you ready to go. So let's get into the actual information. Number 1, information regarding Deal. Diamonds Evolve, Elevate, Levitate Deal is a competitive RLCS style 2v2 tournament that consists of players between the ranks of Gold 1 Division 1, Diamond 3 Division 4. Deal is owned and operated by Elevulsion. And right here I have the pronunciation because I know if you look at this, you think like evolution. It's something different. It's something unique. It's Elevulsion, and that is a kind of our quote unquote parent company. If I decide to do any other leagues, Deal is specifically for gold up to diamond. So diamonds evolve, elevate, levitate, and that's where you get the acronym Deal. If I decide to do a champ league, I'll have Seal, which will be champions, evolve, elevate, levitate, and it'll be under Elevulsion because that's kind of like I just want that to be kind of like our staple and how you know that I run that tournament, how I run that you know that I run this tournament because Elevulsion is kind of the parent company of Deal, which is its own individual league. This tournament will consist of an off season, a draft, a preseason, a regular season, some regular season matches, playoff matches, and a championship game. There are many different types of Discord roles in this tournament. So here's some of the roles I kind of talked about earlier. When you fill out this Google form, you'll be asked to choose which roles you think you would like to do, which is why I put read this, figure out what these roles are, and then you can choose which roles you want in the Discord, in the Google form, and we can help try to get you in those situations. Um, Each team will have no more than one owner role, one GM role, one optional coach role, 2 player roles, and 1 substitute role. So I'm going to kind of talk about all the different roles. So yeah, if this is a great time to, if you kind of already know what some of these roles are and you just want to skip to a certain role, just kind of look for it. But I will go over all these roles, so don't worry about that. The owner role. The franchise owner is an individual who owns a franchise. Pretty self-explanatory there. They may be any other role in the structure besides the substitution role. The owner is responsible for signing a GM if necessary. We'll talk about the general manager right after this, I promise. Participating in owner association meetings to vote on rules, formats, and structures as needed. Choosing the cosmetics, name, colors, identity, etc. of their franchise/team. Choose how to allocate the prize money if the franchise wins. Schedules their franchises games with other franchises. And finally, owners are not permitted to pay out of pocket to anyone for any reason within their franchise. So they do not pay anyone within their franchise out of their own pocket. There may only be one owner of each franchise. An individual may not own more than one franchise. Owners cannot do any of the following positions further mentioned unless they establish themselves as said roles and communicate this to the league owner, which is me. Owners are not allowed to designate themselves as a sub role in any circumstance. So basically, summary of all this and all these words. As an owner, if you have the owner Discord role, you are able to create a team/franchise. You are able to name it, give it team colors, use the cosmetics. You're allowed to, if you just want to be the owner of the team and you don't want to necessarily do any of the drafting and trading to make your team good and build the personnel within it, which is understandable if you're really busy and you just want to own a team, you can try to find a GM to get him to do that for you. Um, but they have a lot of power. They probably have the most power out of all the structures because they can directly be any other role further mentioned. They can be a general manager, they can be a coach, they can be a player, but they cannot be a sub. This is the only role that can be everything besides a sub. They have the most power, they have the most control, the most say about how their franchise goes and the rules of their franchise and kind of how the cosmetics are, the colors of their team. So they have a lot of power and a lot of they have a lot of responsibility as well. So owner, if you want a lot of say in kind of how your experience is in our league, I would definitely recommend looking into the owner role a little bit more. But this is kind of the basics of it, and this kind of breaks down everything that you get to do. So if you don't want to be an owner, or if you do want to be an owner, but you also want to be a general manager, let's get into their responsibilities as well. The general manager or GM is the individual tasked with creating the personnel slash team within the franchise. Only one GM may be on a franchise at one time. There may not be multiple GMs on one franchise. A GM operations include evaluating players, drafting players and subs, signing players, signing coaches, trading players, coach, and draft picks. We'll kind of get into the drafting side of things and the signing with contracts just a little bit. So put that in the back of your brain and we will circle back to it momentarily. GMs cannot trade themselves or the owner of their franchise. Every time I read that, it makes me kind of laugh. I've read this so many times, but it's still kind of funny. If you were a GM who is not an owner, you cannot trade you, even if you are an owner, as a GM. You can't trade yourself to a different franchise. You are on that franchise, and you if you were a GM who is not an owner, you can't just trade the owner of that team that signed you as the GM away. That's just you can't do that. That's pretty funny if you could, but no, you can't do that. GMs who are not an owner may only work under 10-year contracts and shall not receive pay in any, or excuse me, will shall not receive any form of payment from a franchise nor owner unless the team they are the GM for wins the championship, in which case they will receive a percentage of the prize allocated by said franchise if applicable. That is a lot of word gobbledygook right there. And essentially what this means is that if you were a GM, the owners can't pay you to be the GM for that team. You have to do it out of the kindness of your own heart. And as a result, if you were the GM of a team and they win a championship, there is a prize pool for the team that wins the championship. They will receive $100 donated by Zachary. And he's a good friend of mine. He's going to help us with our league and help the league be a great experience for everybody. The owner, as mentioned earlier, gets to allocate the prize money if the franchise wins. This GM will not receive any form of payment unless the franchise wins, and it's really up to the owner to determine that percentage before the season begins. And we'll kind of get into that later, but that's essentially what I'm saying with all of this right here. So let's get into the next role. That was the GM. This is the coach role. A coach is an individual tasked with improving a franchise's players and or sub. A coach can be a player, GM, owner, or separate individual. Coaches have the option to join any franchise they want if and only if coaching is their only role, assuming they are not contracted to a team already. Coaches may coach only one team per season unless they are traded. If they are traded, they may coach whatever team they are currently on post trade. Coaches shall not receive pay in any form unless they receive a percentage of funds allocated to them by the league if the franchise they coach for wins the championship, if applicable. This is the same thing as earlier with a GM, where if as a coach you can't get paid to be a coach, you do it out of the kindness of your own heart, but you can get paid if your team that you were coaching for wins and a certain percentage of the prize fund is allocated to you by the owner. Coaches are signed using 10-year contracts per season by GM. So GM will sign the coach to whatever team or franchise. Coaches may be traded. A coach is not a required position on a franchise. So if you are an owner, you do not have to have a coach. It is optional. Each franchise may only have one coach and one coach only. So let's get into the fun role, which I assume most people are going to want to be. It's the player role. So players can participate in pre-regular and postseason games. There can be a maximum of two on a single franchise at one time. Unless the player is the owner of said franchise, they will be drafted on draft day. Players must sign contracts with the franchise that drafts them between 1 and 5 seasons. If a player fails to sign with the franchise that drafts them, then they will not be able to play and deal until the following season and will not receive a refund for their player role. Players who are eligible to be drafted and are not will receive a full refund. These players will also be allowed to act as free agents during the season and can either declare for the draft the following season or keep their free agent status. So that's pretty much what players are. Players get to participate in the games, in the championship games, playoff games, all that fun stuff. And they are who are going to win the championship. If you have the best players who play well, you'll win the championship because they're competing for it, right? So yeah, I think there's not too much here I need to elaborate on. I'm kind of thinking everything here. I'll kind of get into free agency and the draft and all that. And if people don't get drafted, I have a little section for that. So don't worry if you're kind of lost or confused. I'll flesh out a little bit more in just a second. Let's get to our final role, which is the substitutions role. So substitutions or subs are individuals who may substitute for a player if a player is not available for a pre or regular season game. There may only be one sub on each franchise. Subs will be drafted in the final round of the draft. Subs will have a seasonal limit to how much playing time they receive. Subs cannot be traded, can only sign a one season contract, and will not become free agents. All subs will return to the draft after every season. So essentially, a substitution role gets to fill in for a player if a player is absent for whatever reason, vacation or the internet's down, some stuff, life happens. And so every team gets one substitution player on their team. Um, the reason they have a seasonal limit is because there might be instances where a substitute is better than an actual player, and franchise owners might want the substitute to play more than the actual second player. But the thing about the substitution role is it is free. In order to get the player role, it does cost money. So if you do that, you're essentially having someone who paid to have that player role not participate in the event that they specifically want to, versus a substitution role who didn't will be participating more, and that's not cool. So that is in hopes. And if you also notice, substitutes cannot play in postseason games. It is only players who are allowed to play in those type of games. So I told you to put the 10-year contracts in the back of your mind. We are here, and I'm going to talk about 10-year contracts and what they kind of are. So 10-year contracts are contracts that non-owner GMs, non-owner coaches, non-owner players, and substitutes sign. Notice how all of these, besides substitutes, are non-owner because an owner can't be a substitute, right? But if you are not an owner of your team, you have to sign a contract to participate on a franchise. The owners don't have to because they own the team. They are already kind of contracted onto that team. They can't be an owner for a different team. They can't have a role on a different team. So they don't necessarily need to sign a contract. However, everyone else can move around franchises as they wish as long as they are not under contract. So let's kind of get into that a little bit more. These contracts are solely used to keep individuals locked into the role on said franchise they signed with. 10-year contracts will not have any payment given to the signer or the franchise/owner of a franchise. 10-year contracts are based on seasonal length with a minimum of a one season deal and a maximum of a 5 season deal. So there's no payment going to or from the signer, the signee. This is just to lock in your spot. And I gave a little example here because this might be kind of confusing to people. So the example I used is Bob signed a 3 season contract with the Jets franchise. Congratulations, Bob. Bob won't receive anything such as money, assets, or any payment besides winning allocations. If they win, assuming if they win, the championship, they will get allocated money from the owner. I've mentioned that before, just reiterating it in case people forget. Bob has ensured he will be on the Jets for 3 seasons unless he is traded. So he basically locked himself in on this Jets franchise team for 3 seasons unless he's traded. So I have here a little chart. If you like playing Rocket League or something or doing dishes, you can check this out just real quick. The flow of which individuals can sign the other. So this arrow indicates equal signs. So the owner can sign a GM, the GM can sign coaches, the GM can sign players, and the GM can sign substitutions. So hopefully that kind of makes sense to y'all. Note when individuals are traded, the contracts they are currently under is traded with them from franchise to franchise. So let's get into some more fun stuff. The trading. So trading is the process of one team giving away assets in return for another team's assets. This process is conducted solely by the GM. There will be periods where trades are and are not allowed. So tradable assets include players, coaches, and first round draft picks only. Franchises can trade first round draft picks between each other for tradable assets mentioned previously. If a franchise has more than two draft picks during the draft, they will only be allowed to use their two highest draft picks they possess, assuming the franchise does not have any players under contract. The other draft picks will become null. Third round picks, sub draft picks, are not allowed to be traded. So let me kind of talk about this. This is a lot of word vomit right here. Hopefully, I can help you all to understand what I'm meaning when I talk about all this stuff. And this is another reason why this video is such a great helper because I can kind of elaborate a little bit more on this stuff. So basically, what I'm saying here is that there's actually three rounds of the draft. There's a first round, which you draft your first player, the second round, which you draft your second player, and the third round, which you draft your substitute player, or just substitute in this case. If you are a franchise going into season two and you don't have any players under contract, you are drafting two players in the draft because you can only have two players on your franchise. If you have three draft picks in the first two rounds, so say you have two first round draft picks and a second round draft pick. If that's the case, you can only draft two players. So you can't have so you probably won't be able to use that second round pick. You'll only be able to have those two first round picks because you can't have more than two players on your team. Third round picks can't be traded, and neither can second round picks. Um, and we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. So here's the draft. And I promise we'll circle back to some more about trading with the draft. The draft is really important with some of the trading stuff. So that's why I'm going to read it. So the draft. The draft, similar to real life sports leagues, is a way to distribute skill in an equal way. The draft order is created using a formula that combines franchises that do not have an owner player with franchises that do. Teams that have an owner player will have a defined draft pick. Teams who do not have an owner player will have their order randomized. Only the GM of a franchise may submit the draft pick to the league owner when it is their turn to select a player. During the live draft, each franchise will have 5 minutes to select their player. GMs may also submit a draft board to the owner prior to the draft if they do not wish to draft their player live. A draft board lists all players in order of skill according to the GM and will be respected during the live draft, even if the GM does not submit a pick live. The highest ranked player that has not been selected, that is still on the board, will be drafted to said franchise when it is their turn to select a player. If a GM submits a draft board, once the draft officially begins, they will not be permitted to change the submitted draft board. Failure to select a player will result in the franchise's pick to move to the end of said round it was supposed to be drafted in. There's a lot of information here. You might want to listen to me read that again or pause it and read it yourself. There's a lot of stuff happening with this draft, but hopefully this kind of gives you an idea of how the draft works. So in our first season, the draft will be three rounds. In our first, like I said earlier, first round will be a first player, second round will be your second player, and your third round will be your substitute player, or substitute in this case. The first season draft will be a snake draft. So hopefully I'll have a nice little graphic for you right now. Boom, there it is. And that is kind of like what a snake draft looks like. And that's how kind of our draft will be. After the first season of DEEL is over, to avoid teams from tanking, there will be a draft lottery similar to the NBA. To those of you who are unfamiliar with the term tanking, it is very prominent in some sports leagues like the NFL, where there's a term called tanking. And what tanking is when teams purposely do bad once they like know they won't win a championship or won't win playoff games. They will start losing on purpose in order to get a higher draft pick, to get a better player. And I don't really want that for our league. I want every game to be as competitive and as fun as possible. So to help kind of avoid that, I am installing something that the NBA does to avoid teams from tanking. So I have a little example here that I'm doing. So here's my example. 8 teams in this example with a 4-team playoff bracket. So here you have your 4 teams and their records. I don't have them named, but this is their records of those 8 teams. So I have half the teams making the playoffs, and that's how I'll be doing our league as well. The best half of our teams based on win percentage will make the playoffs, and the worst teams will not make the playoffs. So here is the 4 worst teams that did not make the playoffs here. And even though this is the worst team, they have the best odds to get the first overall pick, but they're not guaranteed to get it. The second worst team has better odds than the fourth or the third worst team and the fourth worst team, but they still have the second best odds to get that first overall pick. and then it kind of goes down from there. So even if you have the worst team, you're not guaranteed the first overall pick. Even the best team that did not make the playoffs, they have a chance to get it. It's just very, very small. And this will kind of be extended if we have more than 8 teams. There's a little cutoff right here. So all these teams have a chance to get the first overall pick. I don't think it's fair if I include a championship team or a playoff team a chance to get the first overall pick. That's not really cool to me. So this is kind of where like the cutoff is. And here's the first round of the playoffs where the teams lost. The six it's going to be based off of record at this point in the playoffs because when you're in the playoffs, you're trying to win a championship. It's not necessarily about um your draft picks. You're not really thinking about that. You're thinking about trying to win this game and move on to the championship. So it's going to be based off of record. So because the 6-4 team lost to one of these two teams and this 9-1 team lost to one of these two teams, it's based off of record. So 6-4 will get the fifth overall pick. The 9-1 team will get the sixth overall pick, and same thing with the championship. The loser of the championship game will get the seventh overall pick, and the winner will get the last pick in the first round of the draft. The second and third round of the draft will be based on overall record. If a franchise has two players on 10-year contracts on their franchise during the specified date during draft day, they will not be eligible to draft until the third round, the substitute round. In season two and onward, if a franchise has one player on their team, they will be forced to forfeit a draft pick of the league's choosing, assuming they have more than one pick, based on calculations made to ensure a team does not become overpowered. Teams are prohibited from trading second and third round draft picks. So this is more gobbledygook, and hopefully you guys can understand what I'm saying here. But what I'm saying is, if you move into season two after season one, and your franchise only has one player on contract going into season two, you don't need two draft picks because you will be only because you only have one player on contract. You can only draft one player. So the league will step in and say, hey, let's say you're this 3-7 team right here, and this is the example that I'm using, and you have one player who's really, really good. He carried this team to 3 wins, and the other player they let go in free agency because they didn't think he was that good, right? So he's going in free agency. If this team gets, they have the best odds to get the second overall pick right here, assuming that this team. So let's assume that this team gets a second overall pick. Well, now you have a really, really good player you get to pair with another really, really good player, and presumably it could be the best tandem in in this entire league. So, and there could be instances where this isn't fair to the rest of these teams that, this was a really bad team but had one really good player. Now they have two really good players. So the league will get to choose which draft pick they keep. So if this guy's a really, really, let's say he's the best player in the league, and even though they went 3-7, we'll say, well, because you have the best player in the league, we'll have you draft in the second round to keep things fair. And that might not be fair if you're a 3-7 team, but hopefully all the other teams can respect that and keep and understand why I'm doing this. It's to make everything fair and competitive because we don't want super teams around here. We don't want to have the Golden State Warriors. And I'll kind of get into the KD rule coming up pretty soon, which is a reference to that. Free agency. Let's dive into it. So, free agency is the period after the end of the postseason. Teams will have 1 week after the postseason to exclusively negotiate and re-sign their players and coaches and GMs for that matter, before any franchise can make an offer for their individual players or coaches or GMs. After the 1 week period, any franchise that has positions open can make a 10-year contract offer for other free agent players and coaches. This also applies to owners negotiating 10-year contracts with GMs if necessary. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory there. Every team gets 1 week for players whose contracts are about to be up for next season to say, "Hey, I want to negotiate this contract with you, and I get a week to do that before any other team can make offers for you, whether you're a player, a coach, or a GM." The KD rule is a rule that states that certain teams will not be permitted to sign certain players uh, as seen for by the league owner. So basically, all the transactions with free agency have to be like I have to be alerted, and then I have to either approve or disapprove. And most of it will be mathematically calculated. It won't just be like my best judgment, like, I don't want that team to be good. No, I literally will have formulas to help try to get teams as balanced as humanly possible. This is to ensure a team with a good player does not sign another good player and create an overpowered team. This is what happened with the Warriors, who went on to I think they broke the record for the most wins by a single team in history. with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. They were unstoppable and they were an incredible team, but it was really overpowered and it wasn't very entertaining for a lot of people, and definitely a lot of teams playing against them. It will be calculated mathematically in private. All free agency signings must be reported to me, which I just said that, must be verified by the league before they can be made official. The league may not allow certain teams to re-sign players in order to keep teams competitive. This will be calculated using specified formulas similar to the one used to determine which teams will draft players in the first draft. So, like I said, this will be mathematically calculated. So it'll just be my best interest. Like, yeah, I don't want those guys to be on the same team together. No, we're not doing that. This will all be done mathematically to assume the most, there might even be instances where the math doesn't add up and you still have an overpowered team. But I would think that the math would help teams kind of regulate at some point in time. That's the hope. Transfer of ownership role. So if an individual does not want to be an owner role anymore, they may sell their role, which will also transfer ownership of one franchise to another individual, one who does not own a separate franchise. The transfer fee paid to the league to give away a franchise is 15% of the selling price between the two parties, or $2.99, whichever is higher. The entire transaction of selling must be done through our Evolution accountants. The owner may also league and leave their franchise. If an owner, quote, league and leaves, they give their ownership role and their franchise to the league. So we take over their franchise if they league and leave. The league will then auction off the role to the highest bidder. Inactive owner. So if an owner of their franchise is inactive, the owners association may vote on whether that individual has abandoned their team. There must be a majority of owners who claim an owner is inactive. Criteria during this vote is: one, has the owner actively participated in league affairs over the past season and off season? Two, has the owner attempted to maintain proper contact with league officials and other owners? If the majority of the owners association votes against an owner keeping the team due to the above mentioned criteria, the inactive owner will have 7 days to give their owner title away and pay the league transfer fee. The league owner, which is me, has the right to overrule any decision made during this vote. And that is because there may be instances where people don't like a certain owner and they just, trumped up charges, try to get him out of here. I can say, no, he might not be the best individual, but you can't get rid of him because of this. He has to actually be he actually has to be inactive for us to boot him out. So I have the right to overrule that. If the inactive owner does not transfer their role by the set date and time, the role along with the said franchise shall be auctioned off to the highest bidder. If there is not a bidder for the role when the owner role, blah, blah. If there is not a bidder for the role, then the owner role will be considered forfeited, as well as the franchise with it. This is where everyone wants to get into it. It's the winnings. This is the good. This is the juicy part. I should put this at the beginning, but it's at the end. Save the best for last, right? The franchise that wins the season one DEEL championship game will be awarded $100 by Zachary Eckstein. The owner of each individual franchise chooses how to allocate funds to all the individuals within their franchise. I mentioned this earlier. So here's a little example. So say I'm the owner of a franchise and I say, well, since I'm the owner, I'm going to give myself 10% of the prize. I'll give the GM 10% to put the team together. I'll give the coach 5% because he kind of helped. Players will get the majority of it because they earned it, right? They went out there and played in those regular season games, won the championship, and I'll give the sub 0%. Owners can only change how they allocate their potential winning funds if all individuals on contract for future seasons approve the change. The changes to allocation for the following season must be submitted prior to the championship game of the current season. So what this means is basically if you're an owner and you have any individual contracted for next season, they have to approve of the change of the percentages of allocation up here, like in this example. Even if one coach or one GM who's tenured for the next season doesn't want the change, then the change will not happen. Everyone has to be on board with the change who is contracted into the following year. And this change has to happen prior to the championship game of the current season for the following season. So, if I wanted to change this and give the owner 5% more of the GM's cut and give the owner 15% and the GM only 5%, I would have to get everyone to approve of this. Now, this would be for season two because season one's already going on right now. I would have to get everyone to approve of this, and if they all approve of this, I would have to submit that change prior to the championship game of the current season for season two. And that way, that when there's free agents and people getting drafted to your team, they're aware of how the stuff is split before they make the decision to sign with said team. So here is the season one inaugural deal. Let's get into it. And in our inaugural deal, our first season is $4.99 for a player Discord role, as mentioned before. It's 50% off and $9.99 per season from season two onward per season. One-time payment of $14.99 for the franchise owner and creator Discord role. It's 25% off. For season two onward, this will be $19.99, by the way, which I think is yeah, it's down there. Franchise transfer payment is $2.99 or 15%, whichever is higher. And this little I don't want to say it's like a graph, it's not really a chart, it's like more like just some words, but down here it basically shows you, assuming you only want to be one of the following positions, how much each would cost. Note, if you want to have multiple positions, such as an owner and a player, you must pay for both of the costs. So, in our first season, season one, the owner role is $14.99 on a one-time fee, and then $19.99 one-time fee post season one. So this won't be a recurring thing. This is a one-time purchase for the owner role. If you want to be a GM and only a GM, it's totally free. If you wanted to be an owner and a GM role, you just add the $14.99 to the free. So it'd be $14.99 to be these two roles, and then $14.99 to be all three of these roles, right? You just keep adding them up. It's free to be just a GM. If you just want to be a GM, it's free. If you just want to be a coach, it's free. If you just want to be a player, it's $4.99 for a first season, and then $9.99 per season post season one. If you wanted to be an owner and a player for season one, you would just add these up. And because this is a one-time purchase for season two, you wouldn't have to pay that plus that. It would just be the $9.99 per season post season one. If you want to be a substitute player, it is free. So hopefully this has a lot of options for everyone. I know money's kind of tight right now for a lot of people, and I totally understand. Hopefully there's something a little bit for everyone. If you want a lot of control over your franchise, whether you want the cosmetics or the team name, or if you want to make sure that you were able to play on your team, the owner position might be really important to you and might be worth that. Versus I know I had a couple of friends who they don't have very much money and they would prefer to be a sub and just sub in and play a little bit whenever they can. See if they like it and if they want to commit for next season, see if they like the format, if they like the intensity and the competitive aspect of it, see if they enjoy it. It's free. First season price if player not drafted. So if a user with the player role pays the full $4.99 for the first season discount and is not drafted by a franchise or immediately signed prior to week one, they will receive a full refund and an offer to become a free agent during the first season free of charge. So basically, this goes for all like even post season one. If you pay for a player role, that is a tongue twister. If you pay for a player role and you are not drafted, you will get a full refund, and we will give you an offer to become a free agent during the regular season if something happens with another player, if you were available to be signed, and it'll be free of charge. If said free agent does not participate in a game, then they will receive a 25% discount for season two. So if this happens and you're a player, you're like a gold player, and you don't get drafted, we'll refund you. And you're like, okay, I want to be a free agent, and you don't participate in a game in season one. In season two, we'll give you a 25% discount heading into that season, $7.49 rather than $9.99. If the player is not chosen in season two, we will refund them again, as I said we would, and they will be able to become a free agent again. If said free agent does not participate in any game in a game in season two, they will not receive a discount for season three onward. So we're only going to give this discount one time. We won't keep discounting you just because you don't get drafted. That is a one-time thing, though. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. Refund period. If a player pays and joins deal but wishes to rescind their offer, they have until 3 days before the seasonal draft date to reach out to Elevation accountants or the league owner if they wish to have a refund. Season one events, dates, and time. So I kind of have that down here as well. The first choose your teammate tournament. So this tournament is like a tournament within a tournament. Technically, what we kind of have is like a league, but it can also be defined as a tournament. If you Google tournament definition, it says when basically like people compete for a prize, and that is essentially what we're doing. So I call this a tournament. However, it is also a league. But because the game we play is Rocket League, I hate like say, calling it, oh yeah, I have a Rocket League because it just makes me sound kind of stupid. So I kind of prefer to use the term tournament, but it is a league. So I'll kind of refer to it as both. It kind of matches league more than tournament, but like I said earlier, Rocket League. I don't know, sounds funky to me. Um, so the first choose your teammate tournament. This tournament will begin on May 10th at 8 p.m. EST. In this tournament, you must find a teammate that has been registered and confirmed in deal, and mutually agree to partake in this tournament. Each match will be a best of three, with the final being a best of five. The winners of this tournament will receive the Discord tag Season 1 Choose Your Champion. Refund period. If a player pays and joins deal but wishes to opt out, they have until May 14th to do so. The first deal draft. The first draft will be held on May 17th at 8 p.m. EST. The stream will be live and can be found on Twitch at twitch.tv/elevation. Preseason. An optional 2v2 mini tournament will be available on May 24th at 8 p.m. EST. The mini tournament is completely for practice and fun and has no bearing on any official stats, records, team records, or playoff implications of Season 1 of Deal. You may only play in the preseason tourney with your teammate and on the franchise that drafted you or you own. The winner of this tournament will receive the Discord tag Season 1 Preseason Champ. So basically, you can only play in the pre. This is a preseason tournament for everyone who wants to participate. It's optional. Regular season. The regular season will begin on June 1st. Each team will play games that will consist of a best of seven. First team to win four will win the one match throughout the regular season. If any of the teams have the exact same team record as any other team at the very end of the season, they must have a playoff game if both teams are in consideration or confirmed to make the playoffs. This game will not count in terms of stats nor in terms of regular season record. However, the winner of the play-in game will receive a higher position in the playoff standings than the other before/when the playoffs begin. New primetime games. So every set of games will decide. Staff will decide one game that will be labeled as a primetime game. Once a time is selected, the primetime game will be streamed live on Elevation Twitch, as mentioned earlier before. It's elevation.twitch TV, I believe that is correct. Or it's Twitch TV slash Elevation. I can't even pronounce it, so here's it. Did I just miss it? It's down here. Here it is. Twitch.tv/Elevation. That's what I meant to say. Um, where was that? Yeah, it was primetime games. Here I was. Found it, guys. Don't worry. On the Elevation Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Elevation. Highlights of these games will be saved and could be used by league editors in clips and highlight reels and given directly to players if requested. The stream may even be posted to the Elevation YouTube channel. Postseason. The postseason will consist of the best half of the teams based on win percentage at the end of the season. If teams win playoff games, they will advance to the championship. Whichever wins the championship will win the $100 prize. Each playoff game will consist of a 7-game tournament series reflecting the regular season games. If any playoff game experiences enough lag to remove a player for over 10 seconds, it must be moved to a private match and continued with the exact same score at the exact precise time. Prize: the Diamonds Evolve Elevate Levitate Tournament Championship pool. Total prize will be 100 USD. Off-season. The off-season is a transitional period between Season 1 and Season 2. The off-season will have 4 main events. First will be 1 week exclusive re-sign period immediately after the championship concludes. Number 2 will be free agency will officially be open. 3, the free off-season choose your teammate tournament featuring rookies. 4, and finally, the second deal draft. By signing here, you state you have read in full all of the information above and understand and accept how the diamonds evolve. Excuse me. How the diamonds evolve, elevate, levitate deal tournament is formatted. Please use your legal signature. So right here, you would sign your legal name as your signature. So I just do mine right there. Boom, 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 boom. So that was the first half, guys, and we're 10 pages in. We're almost done. Let's get through the rules and regulations, and we are clear. Rules and regulations 1.1. Anyone 14 years old and up may join and play in the league for no charge. If you are under the age of 14, you are not permitted to join. 1.2. DEEL will not deny anyone access to join and compete in the tournament, no matter your race, religion, sex, gender, or sexual orientation. Discrimination of any kind towards individual is prohibited. Harassment of individuals within the league is prohibited. Bullying of any kind towards individuals within the league is prohibited. If an individual is found to be breaking Rule 1.2, said individual could be removed, suspended, or banned from the DEAL tournament after receiving one warning. DEAL reserves the right to exclude anyone for any reason from playing in the league, other than the above mentioned reasons, and will provide a full and total explanation to any individual who should be denied if requested. So basically, if you get denied from joining DEAL and you ask, hey, why did I get denied? We are obligated to tell you why, and we will tell you why. 1.3. DEAL participants must be between the ranks of Gold 1 Division 1 and Diamond 3 Division 4. Any individual who has an account that is a higher rank or was a higher rank that does not admit or inform moderators or the DEAL league owner to having an account of said higher rank in Diamond 2 Division 4 may be removed and banned from the league. 1.4. Cheating or using any way of means to give oneself or another individual an improper competitive advantage in any way, shape, or form is prohibited in any pre-regular and postseason games. Any individual found to be cheating or having an improper competitive advantage will be removed and receive anywhere between a seasonal suspension to a lifetime ban from participating in the league. 1.5. Throwing games or not taking in full competitive action in any game held by the league for any reason whatsoever is prohibited. If an individual is found to be throwing any pre-regular tournament or postseason game, they will be suspended or banned. 1.I. The league owner and moderators have the full power to lead an investigation at any time into the possibility that any rules between 1.1 and 1.5 have been broken. If the investigation concludes that it was more likely than not that any rule between 1.1 and 1.5 are broken, a vote shall be had between all moderators that operate in the security department. Majority believes the investigated individuals as guilty of breaking any rule between Rule 1.1 and 1.5, then that player shall be punished based upon the proper punishment listed above in accordance with said rule being violated. 2.1. Team owners must choose a team name and a primary and secondary color. Owners may only change their team name, primary color, and secondary color once every 2 seasons, unless said team is transferred to another individual who then takes ownership. Teams must communicate these cosmetics to me, Kevin, by May 16th. It is the responsibility of individual team owners to reach out and attempt to schedule a time to play against each other. If a team reaches out and you fail to respond 24 hours before the playing period assigned via the schedule is over, then you shall receive an automatic loss. If two teams decide what time they want to play, they must alert the deal owner, me, of that specified time. If you don't let me know, I can't help y'all if you'll have a dispute. If one team is actively attempting to schedule a game and the other is not, the one trying to schedule their game will receive an automatic win. If both teams are actively involved in attempting to find a proper time to play and cannot, the results will be established by the owner of the league. The result could either be reassigning a later date to play or giving both teams a time. I promise we'll get it figured out if this occurrence happens. If a player or substitute leaves and does not play with their team, and does not inform the team in doing so, they will get a strike. One strike will result in a warning. Strike 2 is a 1 to 3 game suspension, and strike 3 is a full season suspension without a refund if applicable. 2.4. Player trades are available until mid-season. Specified dates will be given at a later time. Only a team's GM can trade players, and the league owner must approve the trade. Wait, what? Only a team's GM can trade players, and the league owner, which is me, right, must approve the trade. The league owner possesses the power to nullify any trade. So I can nullify trades if I need to, if like teams are like trying to become too powerful or whatever, to keep things competitive and even. 2.5. All games played with Smurfs, players who have lied about their actual/highest rank, cheaters, or individuals who have used improper means to gain a competitive advantage are automatically counted as a tie for the Smurfs team and a tie for the opposing team, unless said Smurfs team's lost, which in that case the loss will not be charged. and neither will the win by or will not be changed, and neither will the win by the opposing team. Any and all stats of those games become null and will not count on the final stat sheet. If you knew your teammate was smurfing, cheating, or knowingly breaking any rule, you didn't inform moderators or admins or owners, or me, the owner, right? You may face a seasonal suspension or a total ban. It is the responsibility of all individuals playing in the tournament to report any violation of these rules to moderators, admin owners as soon as possible. DEEL reserves the right to decide on a case-by-case basis if individuals who break said rules shall be reimbursed if any transaction is/has been made. By signing here, you state you have read in full all of the information above and understand and accept how the diamonds evolve, elevate, levitate, deal rules, and punishments, consequences associated with said rules. Please use your legal signature. If you are a minor under the age of 18, by signing here, you state and admit you have received permission from a parent/guardian to participate in the Elevation Deal free-to-play tournament that results in a monetary prize for the winners. Please use your legal signature right here. So if you're a minor, sign this. If you're not a minor and younger than 18, you don't have to sign this. If you are younger than 18, please sign this. Make sure you have your parents' permission. Make sure they're okay with it. They are in the know about what's going on with this whole thing. You can even give this to them, print it out, whatever, show it to them. And make sure you sign here if you understand all these rules that I went over. Make sure you sign here if you're a minor. And then the last place to sign is right here. Make sure you sign here if you understand all of kind of everything I went over. Please do not sign this waiver and submit it if you don't accept the waiver, if you don't understand any part of it. Please reach out to me. The best way to reach out to me is my Discord. It is Master Kevin 99, all one word, all lowercase, Master Kevin 99 on Discord. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about Deal Elevation, there are three places to sign here. You may only need to sign two of them. The third spot is for if you are a minor, you sign there. If you are not a minor and under the age of 18, do not worry about signing that last part of the contract. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know it was definitely it was a long read, but hopefully you guys got a lot of information about out of this. And feel free to ask questions in the comments. I'll try, like I said, check the description for the other links that should help you. The download to this should be there. If I can get it there, the link to the Discord server will be there. The link to the Google form will be there, and hopefully the link to the second video, which will be me going through the Discord process and showing you guys how to use it and the all the things you can do in there. So appreciate it, guys. I'll catch y'all later.